Hi there, my name is Jennifer Hayes, and I am the I3 at Weaver Elementary. I teach third grade math and science. In my classroom, I have a classroom set of Chromebooks, so my students use Google Classroom and various other applications to help monitor their learning and assist during the learning process. Today, during my webinar, I'm going to be discussing a web-based application called Flipgrid, and it's a great way to formatively assess your students' learning and also give students a voice that aren't always willing to talk in front of all of their peers or even in small groups. So it's a way that you can engage your more quiet students. So during this presentation, I'm going to be kind of going back and forth between a presentation, a Google slide that I have created, and also the Flipgrid website, helping you guys get your accounts made and also showing you how to create your own grids that you can then share with your students. So if you just kind of stay with me here for a moment, I'm going to share my screen so you will be able to see everything that I'm talking about. Good to everyone. Okay, so okay, so that should be sharing my screen, and I'm going to go to my Google presentation that I've created. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and present this. So we are going to be flipping our classrooms with Flipgrid. Okay, and as I said earlier, during this webinar, you will learn how to use Flipgrid as a formative assessment tool and as an effective method for involving students in academic discussions. So it's a really great way to get your students to vocalize what they're learning in the classroom, and it's a great way to engage them in not only academic discussions, but also using that academic vocabulary. And I'm just going to play just a few minutes or just a few seconds of this clip. Flipgrid's main platform is giving every student a voice. And so here's just one teacher's view on Flipgrid and how it's helped his students in his classroom.
There's a level of honesty that comes out from kids. You see more of their natural side, or sometimes more of their personality comes out when they're making a video. It's very personal. A lot of kids who are timid to speak directly to a person will share all kinds of things on a Flipgrid. So to me, it's a tool that very easily lets kids have a voice and be heard with very little work on the side of the teacher other than asking.
Okay, that's pretty good. Sorry, guys. I think the Wi-Fi is a little spotty right now. Some of the things aren't quite working out as well as we would like them to. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. But as you can see, that teacher was saying how you're more quiet students. It's not necessarily that they don't want to participate in our classroom discussions. It's just very intimidating to speak in front of a room full of students, especially students that they're not necessarily comfortable with. And so it's just a great way to really give every student a voice. And the mission of Flipgrid is to empower every learner to share their voice and respect the diverse voices of others. Because one of the great things that you can do with Flipgrid, after your students create a video for you, you can then share that. They can then share them with other students in their classroom. So it's an awesome way to not only get your students to have conversations with you, but also spark those conversations with their peers. So how does Flipgrid work? Basically, it's a free application, and all you have to do to create a grid for the students is to go to their website, which you can see right here. It's just flipgrid.com. And if you use the sign in with Google option, because we are kind of like a Google district, if you use the sign in with Google option, it will automatically create an account for you using the credentials that you use to log on to Google. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Flipgrid just to show you their login page. So here's what, whenever you tell your students to go to Flipgrid, this is what they will see. And then we'll talk about what the flip code is. But you're going to want to click, if you do not have a Flipgrid, you're going to want to go ahead and go to the sign up. It's free option. So I went ahead and clicked on that for you just to show you what it looks like. And then, so that's what, if you don't have a Flipgrid account, you're going to want to go to that. But I'm just going to go ahead and use the educator login. So once you have created your account, you can just go to the educator login and then click login with Google like I am doing right here. So here is kind of your main page that you'll see. You'll be able to see the grids that you've created, and then we'll discuss the things up here on this ribbon, what they mean and how you can use them in your classroom. So you can see I have a 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication that I'm going to have my students do. Like I said, I teach 3rd grade. So that's one of our big skills in 3rd grade math is 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication. So I'm going to have my students create a video that they can share with each other, and also maybe pass on to the older grade levels. And then the older students can pass a video back to them, just giving them feedback on what they said. So let me go back to my presentation. And so using the ribbon at the top to create a grid after you've logged on, you're going to want to select My Grids, and that was that ribbon at the top that I'll go back to in a second. So right here, we're going to want to go ahead and click My Grids. All right, and then whenever you want to create a new grid, all you have to do is select that little plus sign right there. And I'll go ahead and click on that. All right, and then so here's the launch pad. This is all the things that you need to, before you actually create your grid. These are like the little key features that you need to do before you create the grid. Like you need to title your grid. It'll give you a flip code. This right here, this select a grid community type is really important. Our students, I don't think, at least at the elementary level, our students can't use their email account as an email, this school email domain. It could send them the access codes through the email. I don't know if the older students have access to email with their Garland ISD login, but I know the elementary students don't. So if you're a secondary teacher and you know they don't have access to the email accounts, then I would just go ahead and click the student ID list. And then you're going to name your grid, and this is the grid and this will appear on the ID tags that you're going to print for your students. So I'm just going to go ahead and title your grid. And then this right here, this flip code is what you saw on that first login page whenever I showed you like the home page that your students will go to. So they automatically create or generate a flip code for you. You can change it if you want to. I typically just leave it the one they have. It's not that long. And so I think most of your students would be able to type that in. And then you can personalize your grid. If you're talking about a specific topic, they might have some of their featured pictures might help, nature, people, textures. I typically use the upload feature, so you can upload a picture from the internet or something that's downloaded onto your device that relates to the topic, just to kind of separate it from your other grids that you'll give to your students. So I guess I'll just click on that one for I'll just click on this one for right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and click next. And then this right here is where you're going to create your student ID list. If you have a lot of students, like I know our secondary teachers do, you're probably going to want to use this option that says upload a CSV. And that is, you can get one of those in Skyward. And in my presentation, I'll show you how to get that. So let's just go ahead and we'll go back to the presentation. And I will show you how to upload a CSV or you're going to have to enter them in manually. So I have 39 students this year, and that's I consider that to be quite a lot. So I just use the CSV. And I know a lot of our secondary teachers, you have at least 150. So you're probably going to want to use that option as well. So here's just to recap. For creating a grid, you're going to go to My Grids, and then you'll select New Grid. And then you're going to want to change your community type to the student ID list. And then you're going to name your grid. You can keep the flip code that they assign to you. And then you can personalize your grid by adding a picture. All right, so after you click next, it's going to bring you to the student ID list page. And you can manually add students, or you can upload that CSV from Skyward if you have several students. And so here's how you can upload a CSV. So you're going to want to click on that upload a CSV, and you're going to click on that upload a CSV after you've already downloaded the CSV from Skyward. So here's how you do it from Skyward. So you're going to log on to Skyward, and then you click on your teacher access button, and then you click on My Students, and that will give you a list of all of your students. Okay. And then at the very top, so you can see where it's on My Students, you're going to click that small Excel icon, and it's going to bring down this drop-down menu, and you have all these different options, and you're going to click the first one, export to CSV. It's going to automatically default to export to Excel. So you're going to want to change that to export CSV. And then you're going to click export. And then you can download the CSV to your computer. So after you download that, you can upload that CSV, and then you're going to want to assign each student an identifier. That could be a combination of letters or numbers. It has to be 2+ characters. So you're probably going to want to make sure that's something that they can easily remember, or just something that's easy for you, because every student's going to have to know their own unique identifier. And you can also leave that blank, and Flipgrid will automatically generate one for each student. So over here on My Grid, since I'm not going to do my actual students, I'll just go ahead and create some. So first name, last name, and then I usually I do my identifiers with numbers. So I'll just start with 0, 1. Add student. I'll probably just do like 5 students, just so I kind of have something to work with. And then we have all right, so that's how I have my students. So so you can see their first names, their last names, and then their identifiers are those numbers. So I'm going to go ahead, after you've added all of your students that you want to add, you can go ahead and click next. If you have several periods of students, you might just create a different grid for each class, and that might reduce the amount of students you have per grid, because otherwise what it does is it just, all of the videos that are assigned to that grid you can just see them as like one long web page, and so that might be a little overwhelming if you have a whole bunch of students. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And so here's my students, and then each student gets a QR code. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. So if I click print student list, here's what the QR codes look like. So it says the student's name, it'll have the title of the grid that you have assigned, and then it shows them the flip code and also their student ID. So the flip code and the student ID are really the most important things. That's how the students are going to access your Flipgrid. So let me go ahead and cancel that. So this is where I was talking about if you have a whole lot of students, that would be a lot of QR codes to cut out. So you might just give them the flip code and then just tell them their identifier. And if you decide to use Flipgrid a lot in your classroom, you can just keep the identifier the same for every student. So that way all they have to know is the flip code, and then they have their student ID that they can use. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel and get out of that. Okay, and then you just click launch my grid, and that's what gets your Flipgrid started. And so it says your grid is ready. And then, and it even tells you right here that your students need to know that flip code and also the identifier that you've assigned to them. I really like the option right here that says view the grid as a student, and we'll look at that in a moment, just so you can see what your students are going to see on their end. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and click all set. And then what it does every time you create a grid, it goes ahead and it provides you 2 topics. So this is like a welcome topic, and then this is an ideas topic, just something that just to give you something ideas. I always add my own topics, and then I typically just get rid of these because I don't really need them. So let me go back to the presentation, and we'll just kind of recap the things that we've discussed so far. Okay, so there's going back to the student ID list. So there's the identifier. And you click next after you've added them all. And then that's how you get to, you print student list is how you generate all the QR codes. And then you click all set whenever you're done, and you launch your grid. All right, so the next thing that we're going to look at is how we actually add our content to our grid. So this right here, you can see you have your grids right here, and this page might start looking familiar to you. If you go to the actions, there will be one that says view topics, and the topics are how you add those questions for your students so that you can share with them. Okay. So let's go ahead and we will look at adding a new topic, and it has several prompts for us to follow. So I'm going to go ahead. Here's my grid. So I'm already on the grid that I've created for you guys today. If I go to actions, or sorry, I have to click on new topic first. Okay, so this is where you will title your topic. Okay, so whatever you're discussing in class. So I'm just probably going to have this as my discussion question. All right, and then over here, you can add a topic tip, but it's not required. So everywhere that it says required, you're going to have to input something. You can change the video response time. So this is the maximum amount of time that will be allowed for the students to discuss whatever you've asked them. And then you add your question right here. So I'll just say, what did you learn during today's lesson? Obviously, you're going to want to do something a little more in depth than that, but just for our purposes today. And then you can actually insert like a Google document. You can make these as interactive as you want to. It doesn't just have to be a simple question. I went to a training during our last staff development day, and the presenter had uploaded like a Google Doc for every video. And so you had to read a little bit on the Google Doc, and we had to go around and scan QR codes, read the Google Doc, and then create a video in response to what we had read. So there are lots of different ways that you can use this in your classroom. It doesn't have to just be a simple discussion question. Okay, and then right here you can do your privacy, select your status to active. So you're going to want it to be active so students can actually create the videos. The topic resources, so you can actually add things to these to help your students. So you might record a video of yourself explaining what you want the students to discuss during their video. You might upload a video from YouTube. You might upload an image. And this topic attachments, what I was discussing, that's where you can add the Google Doc. So if you want your students to have specific things in their discussion, or if you want to remind them of anything, this is where you can add that Google Doc or any sort of attachment. And then right here, students can add like stickers or drawings to them. So if you want them to be able to do that, you can keep that feature on there, or you can click none. I typically leave that on there just because it's just something they can add after they've created the video, because they'll have to like take a selfie of themselves just so you know whose video it is. And then sometimes they'll add stickers or something if they want to do that. Okay. And then you can provide feedback on the students'. So they have basic feedback or custom feedback. So the basic feedback is generated by them, and then the custom feedback is generated by you. So you can decide to do that, and then you just click create topic. All right, and so all we have to do now is share that grid with our students. So once again, make sure your students know your flip code, and then you can share this link directly with your students. You can put that in your Google Classroom. So I also use a Google Chrome extension called OneTab. If you get that attached to your, if you get that added to your students' Chrome extensions, then if you click on that, it will share that link with all your students. So that's also something you could use if you want to. Or you can just send them to flipgrid.com and they just have to enter the flip code and then their student identifier. All right, and so this is what it's going to look like. And so your students will go ahead and once they log in, and I'll show you just logging in from a student's perspective, what that looks like. Okay, so let's recap some of the stuff we've discussed. All right, so there's our new topic, and we'll follow the prompts. So to view as a student, we are going to click on the flip code whenever you go back to that main page, and then you'll enter one of your students' identifiers. That's why I like to keep mine kind of easy, and I typically always just use that 01, and then you're going to choose the topic. And then whenever you view as a student, you're going to click the plus sign to tap and record. And then, like I said earlier, you may want to record a video outlining the requirements of the students' responses. And then all of the students' responses will be stored there. And then we'll talk about the other features in a second. So right here, if I go back to my grids, I can see, so here's the grid that I made for you guys today. If I click on the flip code, that will allow me to view it as a student. And then, and you can go ahead and play around with this. So that's the direct link to my Flipgrid. Go ahead and type in one of their identifiers and click Let's Go. And then, so here's what the grid is going to look like. And as you can see, there's my topic that I've created. So it's the discussion question. What did you learn during today's lesson? All they have to do is click on it, and then they will tap to record. And then all of their responses will be stored here. So you'll see all of your students' responses, and they'll populate right there. So whenever you tap to record, if you want to, this is kind of what it will look like, and you have to allow it to use your microphone and your camera. And so this is how you can make your video, and you can see right here, this is where they will record. These are some options right here. So the camera size, audio, importing a video, and then this right here is the stickies or anything. So this is really how your students could do a little bit of pre-planning if they wanted to. just whatever you want your students to do. It can be as big of an assignment or as small of an assignment as you want it to be. I typically use mine just as like a quick formative assessment. We talk about how we did something in math today or something like that. And then so mine are just pretty quick. I don't make mine too involved. So let me go ahead and get out of that. And so that's how your students will use Flipgrid. All right, and then there are some other features on Flipgrid as well, which are really nice to use. So right here, it talks about using the activity feature. So the activity feature is just really, it monitors your activity and your students' activity on Flipgrid. It'll tell you your seconds of engagement, how many grids you've created, how many topics you've created, videos that you've created, videos from this week, how many people have viewed your videos, and I even give you like a little line graph, and then you can see like your recent videos, achievements, so a student voice ambassador. So these are things that you can assign or that you can get as you complete different things. Alrighty, so that's the activity feature. And then the next one I really like is the mixtapes. The mixtapes are really neat. That's where you can store like your favorite student responses. So if you go to the mixtapes, you'll be able to store some of your favorite student responses. And I really like to sometimes or in the past, I have created like end of the year videos. And so this is something that I'd like to start using Flipgrid more. And that's something that I'd like to include in those student videos, like on iMovies, just to kind of reflect on the things that we've learned this year and also to highlight some of my students' real great moments. So you can add any videos that you really like from your students. You just click on that new mixtape and it will get those videos for it. And you just select the videos that you want to include on there, and you'll just kind of list them as whatever topic you were discussing. So you could have several different mixtapes. And then the next one is the disco library. The disco library is where other teachers have shared their Flipgrids, and so you can actually use these in your classroom with your students. And it's really nice because you can kind of, and you can see like we have 5,688 topics in the library, and people are always adding them, so that number will continue to grow. But you can reduce the amount that you see by narrowing your results. So you can, whatever your audience is, so your students' grade level, you can pick a specific topic, and then select a topic goal. You don't have to do that, but so you can see all of these right here. So all of these different elementary math Flipgrids that are already made for you. And so all you do is you find one that you like and you click on it. And then you have to already have a grid created to add one of these to your topic. So I'll just go ahead and add that today to the one that we created today. And then you click add. And then there's your topic details. They've already had everything on here for you, but if there's anything that you want to change, you can go ahead and change that. So you can see the teacher already did the topic description. You're going to want to set yours to active, remember, so your students can respond. And then you update topic. And then when you go back to that grid, you can see where that new topic will be. Sorry it's going so slow, you guys. I appreciate your patience. So there is the new topic that I've added from that other teacher who shared her grid. So all the students would have to do is click on that and follow those same procedures that we've already discussed. And then the last one that we will look at is the Grid Pals. It's pretty much a virtual pen pal. I don't use that with my students since I have such young students. I don't know if that would be the safest option for them, but this is a great way for your students to connect globally and also nationally. So you have to set your profile to active so that other people can connect with you. And then someone on here, Bonnie McClellan, she has a Grid Pals guide that you can, if this is something you're interested, that you can use. And if you scroll down, it'll show you all the different people that you can connect with. So you can see they'll tell you where they're located. Yesterday I was looking on here, there were a lot of people from Australia. So you can see someone down here from Mexico, and they'll tell you their grade level, their subject area. So if there's someone you feel like you want to connect with, then you can contact them through the Grid Pals. And so that's pretty much everything that Flipgrid has to offer. It's something that you can totally make your own. You can do scavenger hunts on there. You can just make it as discussion questions. And it's a really neat tool to facilitate your students' discussion with academic content and really give every student a voice. So I hope you enjoy using Flipgrid in your classroom. And thank you so much for watching. And if you just hold on a second, my moderator will post the link so you can get your CPE credit. Thank you. Okay, so I can get off of it. Okay. Alrighty, good deal. Thank you. Oh. Did it not do it right?
I don't know if it shut it off.
Oh.
Back to your events. Click your name at the top and it should take you to it. Add the live platform. Click on events again. And click on the resume. And then you should be able to hit stop broadcast.
Okay. That's a video call.
Hit that. I should let you do it.
Live controller. Oh my word. went somewhere. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, bye.